Here's your coffee.
Oh, thank you. Can I get a straw with that?
Disposable plastic straws are not allowed anymore.
Then can I get a stirring stick for my drink?
Plastic stir sticks are also subject to restriction.
Do you have a plastic bag to carry that?
The use of disposable plastic bags is prohibited too. Customers can no longer pay an extra fee to use plastic bags.
Now is the time to follow the restrictions on disposable products.
The restriction is not just for disposable utensils and plastic bags at stores, but also plastic wrappers for wet umbrellas and single-use plastic supplies used for cheering at concerts.
Our little discomforts
Can bring comfort to the earth.
This campaign is brought to you by BeFM, Busan영어방송.
Transforming our world. Navigating toward a better future. The great transformation begins right here in Busan through the 2030 Busan World Expo. Busan will set a new course toward a better tomorrow for the Earth and for humanity. So we need your support to start a new movement.
I support.
지지합니다.
I support. I support.
지지합니다.
I support. I support.
Busan, the city where you can experience nature, technology, and people. The one and only 2030 Busan World Expo awaits you.
See you right here in Busan.
See you right here in Busan. This campaign is brought to you by BeFM, 부산영어방송.
안녕하세요. 전국민 안전 캠페인 홍보대사 오나라입니다. 서두르다가 안전사고 겪은 분들 많죠? 그래서 빨리빨리 하기 전에 5초만 안전습관 캠페인을 시작합니다. 에스컬레이터로 뛰어들기 전에 5초만. 멈춘 후에 손잡이 꼭 잡고 타기. 슬금슬금 우회전하기 전에 5초만. 확실히 멈추고 주의 살피기. 이륜차 타기 전에 5초만. 헬멧 확인하고 출발하기. 빨리빨리 하기 전에 5초만 멈추면 모두의 안전이 계속됩니다. 다 함께 시작해볼까요? 나부터 5초만.
5초만, 5초만.
공익광고 협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Today's a final day of the month of August, and so we're about to flip the calendar page to September. You may have already peeked at next month's pages, and you're bound to have noticed the Chuseok holiday at the end of the month. How can you not know that, right? Well, there is a very good chance that this holiday may extend all the way into the beginning of October. The cabinet is widely expected to approve a temporary holiday for October 2nd, potentially giving us a 6-day holiday. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but if this does come through, that will be a major reason to look forward to fall. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Thursday, August 31st on BeFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our program. Oh, can you believe? It feels so odd to say the last day of August. So it really does feel like we're saying goodbye to summer and hello to fall and maybe even welcoming a nearly unprecedented 6-day Chuseok break. If you look at September's calendar, if you look at it, whether it's on your phone or if you actually have one of those, calendars that you can manually, flip the pages, the Chuseok holiday begins on Thursday, the 28th, through Sunday, October 1st. So that's 4 days. However, there is National Foundation Day, which is on October 3rd. That's a Tuesday, which leaves Monday the 2nd kind of awkwardly in between. Earlier, President Yoon Suk-yeol told the government to look into designated October 2nd a temporary holiday. The Minister of Economy and Finance, Chu Kyung-ho, yesterday told the press that the government is looking into this to expand the people's right to rest as well as boosting demand. So, when will we know for certain? This is a very important question as many people try to schedule their holiday. According to a high-ranking presidential official, this may be put up for vote at the cabinet meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. This is in consideration of public opinion as people would rather know about this sooner. We need time to make plans and, if we're going to go anywhere, do anything, we need, a heads up. So that would give us, 6 days of Chuseok plus, National Foundation Day holiday at the end of September going into the beginning of October. That's like nearly unheard of. I don't know about you. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and we'll definitely keep you updated. For our text topic today, we're talking about rest, breaks, okay? On your days off, do you feel rested if you stay at home? Or do you feel like, I need to get out? And let's be honest, how do you feel about having 6 days off for Chuseok? So just don't think about yourself. Think about the fact that you might have to spend 6 whole days with family or relatives. 자, 나는 쉬는 날에는 집돌이나 집순이다. 아니면 나는 무조건 나가 놀아야 한다. 알려주시고요. 또 나는 엿새 연휴가 반갑다. 아니다. 6일 동안 혼자 있으면 괜찮을 것 같은데 가족이나 친척, 시월드, or any which of those choices, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time with family. So how do you feel about that? You can send in your messages to BeFM live stream, live chat on YouTube, pound 9050. That's gonna cost you 101. You can reach me for free through Kakao Talk or our app comment board. Looking ahead to our morning together, we have Lydia coming in for Beyond the Headlines and Stephanie with City Insights. For our special interview today, we are going to focus on the realities of driverless cars in San Francisco. Obviously, in California, there have been some reports of driverless taxis causing traffic congestion and even being involved in accidents. So we want to learn more about this as it seems like this is a wave of the future. So stay tuned for our interview regarding that. In the meantime, I will be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:05, and these are today's headlines. North Korea fires 2 short-range ballistic missiles into East Sea. North Korea has fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea, South Korea's military said this morning, in an apparent protest against combined South Korea-U.S. military drills. Pre-trial detention warrant sought for ex-Marine investigator. Military prosecutors have requested a pre-trial detention warrant for Colonel Park Jung-hoon, who had headed the Marine Corps' investigation unit that probed last month's deaths of a Marine during monsoon rescue operations. Government to consider changing term contaminated water for Fukushima water release. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said yesterday that the government would consider changing the term used to refer to the water being released from Japan's crippled Fukushima plant into the ocean. School violence records to be reflected in university admissions from 2026. Students with a history of school violence will have their disciplinary records reflected when applying for university admissions beginning in the 2026 academic year, the University Policy Recommendation Council said yesterday. Hurricane Idalia grinds into Georgia after slamming Florida. Hurricane Idalia plowed into Florida's Gulf Coast on Wednesday local time with fierce winds, torrential rains, and pounding surf before weakening but turning its fury on southeastern Georgia, where floodwaters trapped some residents in their homes. These are today's headlines. Listeners, it is now time for Annie, our writer and BeFM newscaster. She's in the studio. She's going to tell us what's happening here in Busan with Busan Updates. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so it's the end of August. Can you believe it's so weird saying that, right?
I don't know if I'm sad or happy.
Yeah, mixed feelings.
Yeah.
So, when you are on, when you have days off or you have this like long holiday break, do you feel like, oh, I love staying in? Or do you feel like, oh, I have cabin fever, I need to get out? What do you think?
I'm also quite indecisive about this. So I spend about like 12 hours a day like outside my home. So I do prefer to stay home. Like my inner laziness wants to be like, oh, just at home, relaxing, watching a movie.
Love it, yes.
But then I also feel like I need to make the most of the time, hang out with friends or take my dog out or hang out with my mom. But I do end up staying home a lot.
We know you enjoy being a homebody. Be proud of it. All right. Well, for our first Busan update, the government has set its budget for next year, and the major issue for Busan then is how many of its projects will be covered under the central government's budget.
Right, so let's do the good news first. Busan City has secured the budget for many of its major projects to turn Busan into this global hub city. So first and foremost, the city has secured 536.3 billion won for the Gadokdo new airport. And this is actually 40 times more than the budget for the airport allocated this year. And this includes planning and contracting, breaking ground, and compensations for the people on that island. And the government has also allocated 155 billion won to build the expressway that will be connecting Busan Newport to Kimhae, which is a key road for the Gadok airport.
Yes.
For new technical and business developments, the city has funding for establishing a specialized blockchain cluster, also future automobiles and other digitalization projects.
Okay, so you said the good news first. Bad news?
Bad news. Well, the overall government budget saw the lowest margin of increase since 2005, so a lot of the projects were unfortunately left out. For Busan City, this includes the 3 billion won proposal for the Green Data Center that is to be built inside the Eco Delta City and the Busan type semiconductor equipment. So the city said that it will allocate all of its resources to make sure that they can make their way back onto the budget on the parliamentary level.
So mixed bag, but still, let's,
There's
try
hope.
Yes, be positive. Moving on, we have previously addressed the shortage of pediatric doctors. We've talked about this, and one area that's been affected particularly is Western Busan.
That's right. So there are these hospitals that are called moonlight hospitals. They basically treat children at night or on holidays.
Right.
And there are 45 such hospitals in Korea and only 3 in Busan. So they're located in Dongnae, Yeonjae, and Kijang, with one more coming in Yeongdo in October. But then this leaves a vacuum in Western Busan for urgent children's treatment. So there are some bills introduced in these Haha and Gangso district councils, respectively, to provide support for these hospitals.
So what are the holdbacks?
Well, of course, money and then personnel issues.
Sure.
So in order for an existing hospital to operate as these moonlight hospitals, they must have a pediatric specialist on the staff. And then not only that, running their services at night and on holidays means more money for not only the doctors, but also the nurses and other medical professionals that have to be on duty.
Yes.
And given the relatively low demand at night, kind of simply put, hospitals don't break even. And the city has sent out a call for local hospitals, but it's not getting a lot of responses back.
Yes, understandable. Nonetheless needed. So hopefully
Right.
they can work that out. All right, next up, the final BIE vote for the 2030 World Expo site is coming up soon. We talk about it all the time, November, right? And the presidential office is sending a live-in delegation to Paris.
Kind of sounds nice.
Yeah.
The last push for Busan's bid for the World Expo is starting in Paris. So according to the presidential office, an on-site working team is currently in Paris to focus on the last-minute bid activities. So starting September, all ministries will dispatch their ministers and other chiefs to the bid activities. So for instance, Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon will go to Europe, and then Interior Minister Lee Sang-min will go to Africa.
Okay.
And the key here is to get the upper hand in the first round of votes. So the BIE voting works kind of in a way that if no candidate gets over 50% of the votes, they move on to the next round with the top two candidates.
Yes.
So the key is to be in the top two with just a small margin of the votes. And an official from the government said that last minute pushes like the K-pop concert scheduled in Paris in October, as well as an academic symposium, could possibly help with the casting ballots.
Yes. So still much work to be done. We're still, pushing ahead with, of course, the bid. So good luck to us.
Yes,
the city of
us.
Busan. All right. Lastly, tell us about this Dongbekjeong special sales event for September.
Yes, Busan City said that it is offering a special event for Chuseok on the local currency, that's Dongbekjeon. So for the month of September, which begins tomorrow, the city is doubling the cashback amount in order to kind of encourage spending ahead of the Chuseok holiday and also to help people ease their financial burdens amid the high cost of living. Currently, there is a 300,000 won cap on the amount that you can spend to get cashback of up to 21,000.
Yes.
But for September alone, you can get cashback on up to 600,000 won and get cashback of 42,000 won. So you can kind of charge 600,000 won.
Okay.
So keep in mind that the cashback rate is the same, which is 5%. And for businesses with under 1 billion won in annual sales, you get an additional 2% cashback. You can go onto the Dongbekjeon app and see the cashback rates for each participating store around you.
All right. Thanks for all the updates. And of course, we'll turn to Annie in just a little bit for our traffic and weather. So in the meantime, let's get to our text topic for today. And it is this. We're talking about resting, taking a break. On your days off, do you feel rested if you stay at home? Or do you feel the need to go out? And be honest. How do you feel about this possible, not set in stone yet, possible 6-day holiday for Chuseok? 자, 나는 쉬는 날에 집돌이나 집순이다. 아니면 나는 무조건 나가야 놀아야 한다. 또 나는 엿새 연휴가 반갑다. 아니다. 6일 동안 괜찮을까요? Let me know. And here is Annie with the traffic and weather.
Good morning, everyone. Here's your weather and traffic for this hour. So the roads aren't too busy. There is a little bit of buildup on Nuno Samsongdaero from Myeongji Underpass to Shinho Bridge. Likewise on Dongsa Overpass, that's from Bumnekor Interchange to the Old Kaegum Tollgate. Also a little busy on Seodongro, that's from Geumsa Intersection to Busan Bugokdong Post Office. And likewise on Hwangryongdaero from Munjan Intersection to Bumnekor Intersection. Please always drive safe. If we switch over to the weather, these icons are actually correct. So the day has begun under calm, a bit cloudy skies with current temperatures averaging 25 degrees Celsius. Afternoon highs are forecasted to reach 29 degrees Celsius today. And we are still in the thick of the rainy week with more rain expected around 10 a.m. However, it will be a little bit sunny before then. And similar to yesterday, it will continue to change throughout the day. So definitely pack your umbrellas before heading out and do check the weather forecast often. That's all for now. See you in the second hour.
Check the South.
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Everybody, wait a minute.
This is Morning Wave.
Morning Wave.
You are listening to
Morning Wave.
Morning Wave in Busan.
What show is this?
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Here we go. Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yay. So we are racing towards the end of summer. It's the end of August. So odd to say. Yes. So, okay. Imagine you have all of this rest time, especially like this possible 6-day holiday coming up.
I'm like, that seems surreal, unreal, surreal, right?
That's like almost a week. Do you kind of relax while you're staying at home, or do you like going out?
I have cabin fever almost all day, every day. I do need to be
all the time?
out all the time, but I have created this formula that works for now. I do need like a do nothing day, once every other week.
Every other week.
Yeah. So like
okay,
usually every other Sunday is like I'm kind of like a large supermarket. Like they shut down.
I was like, what?
You know how they shut down the second and fourth Sundays? It's like me.
The second and fourth Sunday.
I don't even
remember.
Don't try to contact me because my shutters are down.
You're unwinding at home. Oh, that's so funny. All right. Well, let's dive into our first news item. So, a police investigation into LH. It continues, and you probably remember, listener, this is over the lack of steel reinforcements in the building of apartments, right?
Right. So yesterday, the Gyeonggi Nambu Police conducted a search and seizure of the LH headquarters in Jinju, as well as the regional branches, including Seongnam and 3 others. So the police have secured documents on their planning, construction, and supervision of the various projects, and they will look into these overarching accusations of poor apartment construction and management. So previously, LH itself has filed a case against 91 companies that took part in their construction of 20 apartment complexes nationwide, where the steel reinforcements in the pillars were missing or not all there.
Right. I hear it like they call it like rebar. That's kind of like the industry term for that.
Right.
But it's not just the steel that could be the problem. As it turns out, there's more.
Right. So the main issue at hand is the rebar or the beamless slab or these flat plate apartments. However, minor, less structural problems, but still inconveniences, especially considering how expensive apartments are. Well, residents in LH-built apartments have collectively lodged 250,000 complaints about various flaws in the buildings. So these flaws in Korean, we call them haja. If you've ever bought a home, especially a newly built one, I've seen my friends do this. They kind of have a walkthrough of they go in and they look for all these flaws. They take photos and they request that the building contractor rectify them. Well, according to the Democratic Party lawmaker Ho Young of the Land Infrastructure and Transport Parliamentary Committee, there were specifically 250,199 flaws reported in LH apartments, which are mostly used as public housing between the years of 2018 and 2022. And these flaws increased considerably to 6-digit figures back in 2021 and 22. Well, the reason is that, though, there's a different system of what counts as official flaws because under the revision of relevant laws, previously it was only structural flaws that were officially counted as haja flaws. However, they're also now counting in the regular flaws of, things like mismatching floors, those like kind of floors rising up and other smaller, but still
kind of cosmetic, but still
considering how much you paid for the apartments, they shouldn't be there. So serious flaws would be structural or drain issues that could lead to water leaks and pose major issues. These regular flaws are kind of the gaps in the windows and the window treatment, creaking cabinets and air gaps on the floor treatments. Right. So when you look into these flaws, what's interesting is that a lot of the top-ranked construction companies, and I will name names of Hyundai, Hanwha, and DL, had some of the highest number of flaws.
Really?
I mean, they also were tasked with the most construction projects, so there is a just a numbers game there. For example, though, one Chungbuk apartment that was built by one of these companies had 4,888 flaws reported for the entire complex, or nearly 8 flaws per home.
Wow.
So that's quite a bit. Yeah, so the lawmaker pointed out that LH is responsible for allegedly failing to properly supervise these projects, and these continual flaws, they do threaten the safety of people in their own home, and called for the Land Ministry and LH to come up with overarching reforms.
Right. And, the fact that this is LH, right?
It's the public official
government builder.
Right.
So anyhow, not good. I certainly hope they can work that out. Next, the president yesterday officially submitted his nomination for Supreme Court Chief Justice to the Parliament.
Right. So President Yoon Suk-yeol officially submitted the request for approval of Supreme Court Chief Justice nominee Lee Gyun-yong. And in the request, Yoon said that Lee has leadership to harmoniously embrace and adjust to the various values and interests of modern society. However, this confirmation process may not be as easy as he would hope, as Lee and his family face various allegations.
What issues may surface during the confirmation hearing? Do we know?
Right. I mean, this happens for every major nominee. This is the airing out of the family laundry part, but a lot of issues seem to be of financial nature. So Lee himself, he did issue a statement to the press before this statement was released by the president, disclosing that he and his family actually failed to report unlisted stocks from a company that was owned by his wife's family. So according to the Chief Justice nominee, Lee did not realize that the relevant laws had changed and that put such stocks under the assets that had to be disclosed by public officials. And on top of this, he kind of forgot about the stocks because they were with his wife's family. By the way, these stocks are worth about 900 million. So some are saying that that's 9억 won. I mean, speaking of apartments, that's enough to buy an apartment. So
I don't know. Can you forget 9억 won?
That's the logical question. And then also, yes, normal lay people may not realize that laws changed, but this is a Supreme Court Chief Justice nominee we're talking about. So should he
not know?
No, that's concerning.
Yeah.
So there were some issues there, and then also potential issues with land inheritance and land purchases. So Lee and his wife together, they made some investments and purchases of 17 plots of land in Busan and Gyeongju area, collectively worth 30,000 square meters. So quite large plots of land.
Okay.
There are allegations of these purchases being speculative. So the family members bought the land by splitting the ownership into different names. So they're kind of questioning why. And they did make money from the purchases, although the vast majority of the land was potentially for farming. They're in rural areas or they're in forests. He didn't farm there or build any structures. And for one plot, he owned it for 30 years without really doing anything. So there's questions as to whether he's waiting for the land price to go up. Also, what's conspicuous is the timing, because most of the purchases were made in the 1980s.
Okay.
This was the period of vast land speculation and land investment, especially by high-ranking government officials and those in position of privilege who would have had insider information into potential developments.
Yes.
And keep in mind, in the 80s, he and his wife were in their 20s. Most people, once again, lay people, don't have the money to buy
land as an investment,
in your 20s. So many are saying that they wouldn't have been able to do this without family or family inheritance or other means of income. So the paper trail for that will also be of importance. However, Lee said that he acted in accordance with the laws back then, and he doesn't see anything wrong with his actions or purchases.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens as they hash this out, right? As they always do. All right, lastly, we're going to go to China, where one region is offering cash stipends for marriage. However, only if the bride is under 25.
Which is interesting. 25 is an interesting age. Also, just the bride is very interesting as well.
Different levels.
So this is a county in eastern China, which is offering a reward of 1,000 yuan or about $130 if the bride is 25 or younger.
Oh.
So this is a part of the country's measures to incentivize young people to tie the knot. So in the notice, the Changshan County official WeChat, their social media, announced that this reward was to promote, quote, direct quote, age-appropriate marriage and childbearing. So you're a parent. If your 25-year-old daughter were to get married, do we deem this age-appropriate?
And I was like thinking, there are so many people that work at the station. Maybe you included that. Then you're beyond the
I'm
age.
far beyond. So far beyond. No one's paying me any money to get married, unfortunately. Fortunately.
Okay.
So this also includes, other more traditional ways to nudge people to get married, childcare, fertility, and education subsidies for people who have children.
Okay.
So by the way, China's legal minimum age for marriage is 22 for men and 20 for women.
It's different?
It's different. Which is, I can't say, how many times can I say interesting in a story, but it's interesting. Number of couples getting married, as it has been for all East Asian countries, it's been going down.
Right.
So that's also driven down birth rate. Marriage rates hit a record low in 2022, lowest since 1986. And of course, that led to a hit in the fertility rate.
Sure.
They're looking at 1.09 fertility rate in 2022. However, let's get to the criticisms of this potentially being, tone deaf because as it is the case in South Korea, Japan, likely China too, when we have marriage and birth rate drops, it's not because it's because of so many reasons: high childcare costs, housing, and especially gender issues of women being disproportionately burdened with chores and childcare. So nudging under 25-year-old women to get married may not be the solution they're looking for.
And you said the minimum age is 20, so between a very specific 20 up to 25.
Yes. Which I'm like, well, aren't most people in colleges at that point?
And not just that, like people are getting married later in life. That's just a reality.
Right.
In all countries. But anyhow, very interesting, once again, for lack of a better adjective. Intriguing. Piques our interest. All right. Before I let you go, I hear that you have an update from a story that we covered yesterday for our listeners.
Right. So yesterday I reported that the police will ease school zone speed limits at nighttime from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour.
Right.
Well, I didn't lie, but it turns out I lied because the police kind of took it back. So
really? I was like spreading the word yesterday for no reason.
No, I know. And then you have to call them again and be like, never mind. So never mind.
Really?
So according to the police, well, they did initially say that this was going to go into effect September 1st nationwide. It's only going to be a pilot program in 8 spots across the entire country, none of them in Busan. So they are under a bit of criticism because it seems that they kind of jumped the gun in making the announcement without fully realizing what kind of preparations go into changing the speed limit in school zones, including signs. And they have to be changeable signs, electronic ones, public input processes. And if done right, that would take over a year. So after the police now, we know, prematurely made the announcements, municipalities have had to kind of walk that back and say, actually, it's only for a very, very select number of pilot areas.
Right.
So school zones, 30 kilometers per hour unless otherwise posted, all day, every day.
I hope we can spread the word because like Haley's walking about, I'm going to have to walk about personally. And so there you go, 30 kilometers per hour in a school zone. Well, thank you for going over all the news. Of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And with that, we are ready for our first song break. How about a little bit of Beyonce? So here we go. This is Irreplaceable by Beyonce.
To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left. Everything you own in the box to the left. In the closet, that's my stuff. Yes, if I bought it, nigga, please don't touch. And keep talking and that's fine. But could you walk and talk at the same time? What's my name that's on that tag? So remove your bags, let me call you a cab. Standing in the front yard, telling me how I'm such a fool. Talking about how I'll never ever find a man like you. You got me twisted. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I could have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute, baby. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you by tomorrow. So don't you ever for a second get to thinking irreplaceable. So go ahead and get gone. Call up that chick and see if she's home. Oops, I bet you thought that I didn't know. What did you think I was putting you out for? Because you was untrue, rolling her around in the car that I bought you. Baby, drop them keys. Hurry up before your taxi leaves. Standing in the front yard, telling me how I'm such a fool. Talking about I'll never ever find a man like you. Got me twisted. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I could have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute, baby. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I will have another you by tomorrow. So don't you ever for a second get to thinking you're irreplaceable. So since I'm not your everything, how about I'll be nothing, nothing at all to you? Baby, I won't shed a tear for you. I won't lose a wink of sleep. 'Cause the truth of the matter is, replacing you is so easy. To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left. Everything you own in the box to the left. To the left, to the left. Don't you ever for a second get to thinking you're irreplaceable. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute, baby. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you by tomorrow. So don't you ever for a second get to thinking you must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. You can pack all your bags. We finished. 'Cause you made your bed by laying it. I can have another you by tomorrow. Don't you ever for a second get to thinking you're irreplaceable.
Welcome back, everybody. It's now 7:34 on this beautiful Thursday morning, last day of August. And so, our top story. We are potentially looking at a 6-day Chuseok holiday as the government is widely expected to set October 2nd, that is a Monday, as a temporary holiday. What that means is we would have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for Chuseok plus a weekend. And then if Monday is turned into a temporary holiday, that parlays over into Tuesday, October 3rd, which is also a public holiday, National Foundation Day. That equals possibly 6 days. While many are welcoming this decision, the travel industry is perhaps the most excited. Industry insiders are saying that they have seen a big uptick in reservations and inquiries into mid and long distance travel, ranging from destinations like Southeast Asia, all the way to Europe. But some of you who preemptively took October 2nd off may be wondering, what happens to my vacation day if the government turns it into a temporary holiday? In that case, apparently you can just cancel your vacation request, and employers are actually obliged to comply. They have to comply. If you have to work on that day, it is still a legal holiday, and you should be paid time and a half, except for small businesses with under 5 employees. I will likely be here live on that Monday. But anyhow, it's time for a text topic. We're talking about rest, taking breaks. So on your days off, do you feel rested if you stay at home, or do you feel like I need to go out? Also, be honest. How do you feel about this 6-day potential holiday for 추석? 자, 나는 쉬는 날에는 집돌이다 혹은 집순이다. 아니면 나는 무조건 나가야 놀아야 한다. Which are you? And 엿새 연휴 어떻게 생각하세요? 반가워요? 아니면 조금 뭐랄까 껄끄럽다? You're kind of or maybe you have mixed feelings. Let's get to a few of your responses thus far. 태진님 says 6일 연휴 너무 반가워요. 제사가 없어서 편하게 양가 들려요. 쉬는 날은 무조건 바람 쐬러 나가는 타입이에요. Oh, so 태진님 says he actually welcomes the 6-day holiday. They don't partake in the ancestral memorial service for Chuseok, so they can just comfortably visit both sides of the family. And he is the type of person who really likes to go out on a day off and really enjoy being out. So thank you for letting us know. Leslie saying, I hope you all get that extra days for Chuseok. This year, our Independence Day fell on a Tuesday, meaning the United States, 4th of July. So my employer gave us a Monday before off, so we had a 4-day weekend over there. That was very nice of the Colorado governor. Very nice. So I'm sure you enjoyed that long 4-day weekend. I'll read more of your messages in just a little bit. I'll be back with Hot Clip. For today's Hot Clip, this might spark a debate among, you, the listeners. What do you think about this idea? Having an adult-only section on an airplane. Well, apparently this airline is going to test this out. Let's listen to the clip from News Nation.
One airline says it's going to create an adults-only section. Turkish Dutch Corendon Airlines saying that it's introducing the adult-only zones for its flights between Amsterdam and Curacao starting November 3rd. Is it a good idea? This move getting a lot of buzz in the industry.
Most passengers have been there before, right? After a day of long delays or long lines at the airport, you finally board your flight only to be sat next to a crying baby. Now, of course, it's not the baby's fault, but airlines are testing the waters to see if there is interest for passengers to pay a premium to sequester themselves from any children. The Turkish Airlines Corendon is set to become the first European airline to offer the service. For an extra $48, passengers can choose to sit in the only adult zone, where there will be no one under 16 years old. The announcement reads, the zone in the aircraft is intended for travelers traveling without children and for business travelers who want to work in a quiet environment. At the same time, the introduction of the only adult zone also has a positive effect for parents with children. They don't have to worry as much about possible reactions from fellow passengers if their child is a bit busier or cries. It's a polarizing idea, but there is an appetite for it. Last year, a survey showed about 8 in 10 travelers want adult-only flights, and 64% are willing to pay an average premium of 10 to 30% or more when taking a long-haul ride. But the passengers we spoke to say they're against it.
So listeners, what is your opinion? Are you willing to pay extra in the range of, let's say, 한 6만 원 for an adults-only section on an airplane? Ooh, so this is kind of getting into, testing waters with these, no kids zones popping up left and right in cafes, restaurants, and other places. Is this kind of the new frontier in that? Let me know what your thoughts are. This was your Hot Clip for today.
You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Lydia and Beyond the Headlines. She's in the studio with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey. So I want to ask you this. We're talking about like taking rest, breaks on a day off typically. Are you the type that you just like, for me, I'm the type like I just want to lounge around and not really do much. However, other people, some of our listeners are saying they really need to get out. So which are you? Do you like to get out or do you like to relax at home?
I do not relax at home at all.
You love being out and about.
I wake up and I get all the stuff I need to get done that I wasn't able to do on my day off.
Oh, like your errands and stuff like that?
Like errands and like workout, maybe like even twice a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm very productive. But after I work on work days, I am home. I'm not outside. Yeah.
I see. So right after work, you just like to head home, but on your day off, you get a lot done.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Well, thanks for sharing. Well, what do you have for us for Beyond the Headlines?
Well, first of all, happy last day of August.
I know.
I feel like summer is coming to an end.
Yay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your summer so far?
I would say it was really eventful for me this year. Usually we have the same old, kids, going to hagwon, blah, blah, blah. My husband went on a business trip for a month. So that was kind of really different for us. We've never been apart. And then because of that, I had to, wear mom hat, dad hat, all the different hats. And then it was kind of like exciting to see him again.
Yeah, because I know how close you guys are.
We're together like all the time, right?
Very, very romantic.
Yes.
Well, as we are in the endemic phase of COVID-19,
yes.
We were just talking about in the hot cliffs too. This summer is the summer that people are itching to hop on a plane and to get away, right?
And so in terms of plane tickets, people with this possible kind of 6-day holiday, maybe, I'm sure, trying to get plane tickets, train tickets, anything during Chuseok is like skyrocketing, right?
Right. That despite the uptick, people are still kind of on that 보복 여행 train. Like, how do you say that?
Like revenge travel, or what do they call it?
They've been so suppressed that it's just trying to get it out of them. And speaking of flying, last week we talked about this on the show. There was a big international headline about Korean airline requesting people to weigh themselves before boarding the plane, right? You've heard about that.
Yeah.
And instantly the announcement was met with backlash from the public. People are like, that's absurd. Like, you can't ask ladies, especially like how much they weigh, right?
That's step up.
How rude. But, soon after that, we found out it was about a safety test that could improve aircraft performance.
Yes.
A representative for the airline told Yonhap News that practice would last for about 3 weeks. It had started this Monday and is required by law. So it turns out all Korean flag carriers have to weigh passengers and their carry-ons at least every 5 years to ensure safe flying operations.
That's right, because initially we were all just like, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's for safety. They need to, measure how much fuel versus, the baggage and luggage and people, obviously. So it's good to know it was, it's a temporary thing. It was for 3 weeks and they have to do it by law, right?
Right. But not all airlines are apparently following the rule.
Oh.
The U.S. federal government is fining American Airlines for $4.1 million this week.
Why?
And it's for the dozens of instances in which passengers were kept on board planes without a chance to exit during long ground delays. So flying in the U.S., as you know, can be pretty stressful.
Oh, yeah.
U.S. flights are notoriously known for being delayed or canceled. And you see tons of videos online of like angry, frustrated passengers yelling or throwing a fit on planes or airports, right? And it's like sadly common to see that. I mean, not saying that it's okay to act that way, but sometimes you see
people doing that.
Yes.
And the U.S. Department of Transportation said it is the largest such fine against an airline in 10 years. The department's investigation revealed that from 2018 through 2021, American Airlines kept 43 domestic flights stuck on the ground for at least 3 hours without giving their passengers a chance to deplane. And there were about 5,821 passengers involved in this investigation.
Wow.
So there are exceptions in which airlines are allowed to bend the rules, including for safety and security reasons, of course. But the department said none of those were factors in the flights they identified. So the U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg commented that they vow to hold airlines accountable under their consumer protection laws.
Right. And I remember even reporting on a couple times where it was this past summer. It was like really, really hot. You're on the tarmac in a plane with the AC off. They're just like waiting. And so some people passed out.
Oh, wow.
People literally got sick. They got heat illness being on, can you imagine you're on the tarmac, let's say in Las Vegas. That was one of the stories. And people were just getting sick because and then they weren't allowed to, deboard.
Right.
So they were just stuck on the plane, no AC, and it was just
Oh, I guess
crazy.
they can't turn the AC on because it's a fuel that's like measured
exactly.
like, meticulously.
Right.
Right.
So,
I mean, I feel like we're hearing more and more stories like that, and somebody opening the door and things like that.
Yeah, which is, by the way, that's not an excuse. You can never open the door. No. But let's kind of shift gears just a little bit because we're talking about obviously traveling on planes, but space tourism. That's also a thing too now, right?
Right. So on Monday, Virgin Galactic, an American aerospace company founded by the British entrepreneur Richard Branson, announced that it will conduct its next commercial space flight, Galactic 03, as early as September 8th. And they say they plan on operating space flights once a month now regularly, ushering in a new era for space travel.
Okay.
So just earlier this month, Virgin Galactic 02 mission took three private passengers to the edge of space.
Right.
And these passengers were traditionally not astronauts. They were including a mother and a daughter being actually the youngest woman to going to space, and a former British Olympic John Goodwin, who is also the second person with Parkinson's disease to go to space. And what's special about that was he was diagnosed in 2014 and has described his flight to space as a way to give people hope going through similar challenges. So back to Galactic 03, this will be the company's fourth space flight in 4 months and third commercial space flight overall. It will carry 3 as yet unnamed passengers who bought their tickets on the company's space plane back in the early 2000s.
They've been on that wait list.
Right. So in a statement released this week, Virgin Galactic said the 3 Galactic 03 crew members are the first of Virgin Galactic's group of founder astronauts. So the first customers who made early ticket purchases, and apparently their forward-thinking vision helped make the dream of regular commercial space flights a reality. So they'll be flying in the altitude of 85 kilometers. So put that into perspective, most commercial passenger jets typically cruise around at 8 to 11 kilometers. So 85, 11, that's really cool.
Absolutely. So in terms of the cost, do we know the cost?
So the advertised price for a place on a Virgin Galactic flight has been as high as $450,000 US.
That's like 5억 won.
Right. That's easily 5억 won.
It's an apartment.
But apparently the Olympian who bought the tickets apparently he bought his ticket in 2004 or 5.
Okay.
He paid $250,000. So it wasn't that expensive back in the day, but
he got a DC.
He did get a really good deal. But SpaceX, another aerospace company owned by Elon Musk, in 2022 launched the first all-private crew to the International Space Station, and they were there for more than a week. And apparently the 4 attendees spent $55 million each for the trip. Each person spent $55 million, but they were there for a week. But this trip for Galactic 03, apparently only 50 minutes.
Oh.
So if you do the math, I don't know what's a better deal.
I don't know. I'm bad with math.
Right. So according to the company, should the flight occur in early September, the 3 people will become Virgin Galactic's 14th, 15th, and 16th astronauts. And they'll fly with Colin Bennett, one of Virgin Galactic's astronaut instructors.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
I mean, if it was a possibility for you, so say, Catherine, you have to get on this spaceship this afternoon for a week. Would you go for free?
Oh, for free. I don't know. I would love to. The adventurous side of me would say, yeah, let's go. But then, like, the cautious, like, the mom had once again, like, is it safe? Like, am I going to make it? I don't know. I'm kind of a worrywart. What about you? You would go, huh?
I would drop everything
and just go, right?
Yeah.
See, this is a difference between, being single and non-single with lots of extra baggage.
Speaking of baggage, I mean, your son is sitting right outside of the door.
Oh, hopefully he's not listening. Okay. Right. Umberto says, for free, take me to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if the seats are going for, what is it, $40,000 to $50,000? That's like an arm and a leg and a house, right? Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us stories beyond the headlines, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Lydia.
See you next week.
All right. And with that already takes us to the end of hour number 1. I'm getting comments regarding the whole 6-day holiday. 조이님, 6일 연휴? 왜 이런 무서운 일이? I know for a fact, Julie always talks about her young kids. So she's like, oh my gosh, 6 kids? Oh no, that's a scary thought. Yeah. It depends. If you're single, I'm sure many of you are going to love it. If you have family, I don't know. You tell me. And here is our final song for hour number 1. This is one of my favorites. I like this one. Kind of an oldie now. Not that old, but kind of. 너를 만나 by Paul Kim.
너를 만나 그 이후로 사소한 변화들에 행복해져 눈이 부시게 빛나는 아침 너를 떠올리며 눈 뜨는 하루 식탁 위에 마주 앉아 너의 하루는 어땠는지 묻거나 나의 하루도 썩 괜찮았어 웃으며 대답해주고 싶어 별거 아닌 일에 맘이 통할 때면 익숙해진 서로가 놀라웠어 널 사랑해 평온한 지금처럼만 영원하고 싶다고 너를 바라보다 생각했어 너를 만나 참 행복했어 나 이토록 사랑할 수 있었던 건 아직 어리고 모자란 내 맘 따뜻한 이해로 다 안아줘서 무심한 말투에 서로 아플 때면 차가워진 사이가 견딜 수 없어 미안해 불안한 지금이라도 영원하고 싶다고 너를 바라보다 생각했어 너를 만나 참 행복했어 나 이토록 사랑할 수 있었던 건 아직 어리고 모자란 내 맘 따뜻한 이해로
삶은 갈치 플러스. 닦고 닦고. 또 닦은 수건은 가운데서 냄새가.
of Busan.
부산 지역의 꿈나무들이 바라는 부산의 미래, 우리의 미래를 그려볼 수 있는 영어 말하기 대회를 개최합니다. 제1회 중구청장배 청소년 영어 말하기 대회, 나의 꿈, 우리의 미래. 9월 16일 토요일 오전 11시 부산 영화체험박물관에서 2030 부산 세계박람회를 앞둔 국제도시 부산의 미래를 확인해보세요.
우리는 자랑스러운 부산의 꿈나무입니다.
We are the future of Busan.
Come to hear firsthand the dreams of Busan's local youth and find out how they envision the city's hopeful future in this speech contest.
이 행사는 중구 진로교육지원센터와 BeFM 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's morning!
And what a lovely morning!
Dynamic Busan.
Good morning!
Good morning!
Good morning!
Good morning.
Hello, Shelly.
What show is this?
Hello!
Hello, baby.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everybody. Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now 8 o'clock, and these are your news highlights. North Korea fires 2 short-range ballistic missiles into East Sea. North Korea has fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea, South Korea's military said this morning, in apparent protest against combined South Korea-U.S. military drills. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS, said it detected the launches from an area in or around Sunan in Pyongyang between 11:40 and 11:50 p.m. last night. The missiles each flew some 360 kilometers before splashing into the waters, the JCS said, with the Allies' intelligence authorities conducting further analysis. The JCS strongly condemned the launches, calling them acts of significant provocation that not only undermine peace and stability on the Korean peninsula, but also in the international community. Pre-trial detention warrant sought for ex-Marine investigator. Military prosecutors have requested a pre-trial detention warrant for Colonel Park Jung-hoon, who had headed the Marine Corps investigation unit that probed last month's death of a Marine during monsoon rescue operations. The Defense Ministry said prosecutors made the request to the ministry's General Military Court yesterday, given the severity of the case and concerns that Park may destroy evidence. The prosecutors said Park has repeatedly refused to undergo questioning after being booked on charges of insubordination related to an internal probe into the death of Lance Corporal Choi Soo-gun. Government to consider changing term contaminated water for Fukushima water release. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said yesterday that the government would consider changing the term used to refer to the water being released from Japan's crippled Fukushima plant into the ocean. The government has been using the term contaminated water in its daily briefings on the Fukushima water release, which began last Thursday. Meanwhile, Japan has referred to it as treated water. The chief of the National Federation of Fisheries Cooperatives advocated for using the term treated water to encourage seafood consumption, arguing that the term contaminated water has generated a negative public reaction despite the fact that the water undergoes scientifically proven treatment processes. School violence records to be reflected in university admissions from 2026. Students with a history of school violence will have their disciplinary records reflected when applying for university admissions beginning in the 2026 academic year, the University Policy Recommendation Council said yesterday. The measure was part of the university admission guidelines for students with records of school bullying, unveiled jointly by the Korean Council for University Education and the Education Ministry to root out violence among students. Under the guidelines, universities are required to take into account disciplinary action given to applicants for school violence when screening them for admissions beginning in the 2026 academic year, and can go as far as disqualifying students with school violence records from applying for certain types of the admissions process. Hurricane Idalia grinds into Georgia after slamming Florida. Hurricane Idalia plowed into Florida's Gulf Coast on Wednesday local time with fierce winds, torrential rains, pounding surf before weakening but turning its fury on southeastern Georgia, where floodwaters trapped some residents in their homes. Hours after Idalia slammed ashore as a powerful Category 3 hurricane at Keaton Beach in Florida's Big Bend region, packing winds of about 201 kilometers per hour, authorities were still trying to assess the full extent of damage in the hardest hit areas. At a late afternoon news conference, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said there were no immediate reports of hurricane fatalities, and that it seemed most residents in vulnerable, low-lying areas had heeded evacuation orders and warnings to move to higher ground. And this was News Highlights. All right, listeners, it is now time for Haley once again. We have her back in the studio for Issue Wagger Wagger. Welcome back.
Good morning again.
All right, so we got to revisit this issue again, the Jamboree.
It's not going away.
I mean, it's like an onion. Like we peel layer after layer. We still talk about it. And during the fiasco in Saemangama, a lot of local governments, corporations, and just average people donated various food, water, and other goods for the scouts, of course. But as the scouts evacuated from the site early, a lot of these items apparently went unused. Where are they now?
Right. So according to reports, these corporations, religious groups, civic organizations collectively sent in some 4 million items during the Jamboree. 3 million of them, they were given out to scouts and their leaders on site or as they were leaving. So that leaves 1 million items, mostly bottled water, some sports drinks, these ice boxes, cooling sleeves, neck bands, etc.
Yes.
So according to the organizing committee, they moved the items to a nearby storage facility in Kimje because, of course, they couldn't just leave them out in the field.
Yes.
Most of the items are in good condition. They're still in their original packaging. But one, if they go unused, especially with consumables, food, water, drinks, they will expire at one point and then they will go to waste. Secondly, it actually costs money to store them because they're paying for a storage facility. So the storage facility in question has been rented out for 1 month, and the monthly rate there is actually 13 million won, which is, right, 13 million.
I'm like, did I hear correctly?
Yeah. So
13 million?
Well, I mean, I guess we have 1 million, just say 1 million bottles of water. That's
a lot.
That's a lot of
water.
space.
Yeah.
Right. So then if the government has to extend that, then that's 13 million won out of public funding each month just to keep the items that were donated. So most of the companies that donate the items, they don't want them back. It's for the Jamboree.
Right.
So the organizing committee is surveying central government's agencies and local governments on whether they would want them and will give them out for free. And that process will start as early as next week. But then there are some internet comments, I mean, mostly criticizing the ill-preparedness.
Yes.
But then also, why not donate them to charity, to those in need, even firefighters, police officers, the military, etc.
I mean, came from taxpayer money, some of, your one, my one, everybody's one.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
From everyone.
From everybody, right? Hopefully it goes to those that really do need it.
Right.
All right, next, our issue. 2 babysitters charged with child abuse. They've been found out, but the courts found them not guilty. Apparently there was an issue with evidence. Can you tell us what happened?
Right. So this is an important court ruling that may affect future cases. So back in 2020, 2 babysitters or these postpartum caregivers were charged with child abuse. So the women were taking care of a 2-month-old baby. In the footage, so there is footage at home CCTV submitted as evidence. You can see them. One is pushing the stroller quite quickly and really vigorously. The other is shaking or bouncing the baby. Experts counted 90 times in a minute.
Oh, goodness.
So that's, more than, over 1 time per every second without supporting the baby's head. So that can be quite dangerous. So one of the caregivers was also in a different home charged with putting a 10-day-old baby on her lap and shaking the baby once again very vigorously. However, the courts found a problem with how the evidence was acquired. So as I said, the footage came from home CCTV footage, what we kind of casually call nanny cam.
Right.
But Seoul Central Court ruled that the evidence was procured illegally because the parents did not notify the babysitters fully of the CCTV, or at least the fact that it was recording, what the intent was for, and informed them of the rights to refuse filming. Therefore, this is illegal evidence.
I see.
So what's interesting is that the defendants, the caregiver, said that she knew about the CCTV because it was installed in the room.
Okay.
However, she was told that it was broken so that it wasn't recording. Maybe that was true at one point. Maybe they fixed it. That's unclear. Then the parents said that the CCTV itself was installed with consent they indeed did not inform the sitters of whether they were being filmed, what it was for, and how long the video was being kept. So, and then also there were some practical issues of because the footage was in fast playback, twice the normal speed, it's hard to use as evidence. However, in terms of future cases, because of course a lot of working parents, they do hire sitters.
Yes.
And a lot of them do have these at-home cameras. It's very common in South Korea. However, keep in mind that you absolutely, I mean, just even if there's no child abuse or criminality involved, you absolutely have to inform a person being filmed that they are being filmed and how long this is going to be kept, what's for. However, netizens are saying because this case pertains to child abuse.
Safety, right.
Safety. So then they're questioning in terms of the legality.
Right.
Well, street surveillance cameras, the public surveillance cameras, they're filming people without explicit consent from the people, or even, you know, vehicle's dashboard cam, which is
dash
not,
cams, right.
the dash cams are not public entity, they're private videos, but they are used as evidence in court. So then what's the difference in legality between the two?
Right, and I would think that parents would use nanny cams to make sure their kids are okay, and then like if you inform these people ahead of time, the babysitters,
right?
Then you might think, well, then they could go off camera, and do something bad or nefarious. Oh, so,
very complicated.
Yes.
Right. Oh, by the way, the babies are okay. They were not majorly harmed, but
nonetheless,
the shaking was concerning.
Oh, absolutely. All right, next let's talk about American pop star Love, who had a concert in Seoul, but I guess there's this like divided opinions and divisive action. Something happened regarding a surprise event during one of his songs. So what happened?
Right. So Love had a concert. He's famous for Paris in the Rain.
Right.
On Monday in Seoul, one of the songs that many people were excited about was Steal the Show. This is from the soundtrack for the Pixar movie Elemental.
Yes.
Elemental has been very popular in South Korea because the story is inspired by Asian immigration, and the director Peter Son is a Korean American, I believe, second generation Korean American immigrant. So Love, a lot of people were looking forward to hearing this live. However, when Love was in the song, a man suddenly came on the stage. This was apparently prearranged with the singer and the concert goers. However, he comes on with his girlfriend and proposes to her on stage. So that was so that was interesting. So a lot of people cheered. I mean, this is a song about love. Elementals. It's a has a romantic aspect, and Love even got quite choked up, and he actually cried a little bit after he sang the song. But other people say that this actually, excuse the pun, stole the show a little bit too much. So the reason was because during the song, the camera was focused entirely on the couple and the 15,000 people at the dome where the concert was being held. They basically had to watch the couple on the big screen during one of the songs that they were most looking forward to.
I see. I can see.
Right. So rather than being able to enjoy the song and singing along, the song was kind of used as a background music to this one couple's proposal. So the event organizer said that the whole proposal was a plan by Love. There are claims that the man is a friend of the singer, and it was meant to reflect the love between Amber and Wade from the film. So kind of a nice connection to that. And that actually reminded me personally, during the Taylor Swift Eras tour, there was this huge social media tag of people proposing during the song Love Story. Because there's literally a lyric says, he kneels to the ground, pulls out a ring and says, "Marry me, Juliet." But the thing is, these are all in the stands. Nobody went up to the stage.
So it wasn't like front and center.
Right. This was private.
Okay.
So a lot of people are saying, they didn't get consent or they were not told of this. So
I didn't get my money's worth. I was looking forward to that song, basically.
Exactly. So it's divided. Was it cute? Yes. Should it have been done on stage? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. A little later on, though, I switched the songs. We're going to play Paris in the Rain. I switched songs in the middle of that, so we can listen to that in just a little bit. All right, but let's get to this story first. Finally, there is this invasive species of crabs that have infested Italy. And I guess some Korean netizens are drooling. What's going on?
So we're talking about blue crab, which in Korean is 꽃게.
꽃게.
Now you know why we're drooling. Because you know what's delicious? 꽃게.
Yeah.
Right. So blue crabs are native to North and South American eastern coast and the Gulf of Mexico.
Sure.
They eat shellfish. But the problem is in Italy, where the crab population has spiked. Italy is one of Europe's biggest clam producers, and the crabs are just eating them up.
Literally.
So much so that they've actually damaged half of the country's production of crabs, mussels, and oysters.
Oh, no.
So that, of course, jeopardizes people whose livelihoods depend on the supply chain.
Sure.
So as a solution, this is a very Italian solution.
Okay, what is it?
The government's working with local restaurants to develop recipes. So they're just going to eat them up. And yeah, so it's a very Italian way of dealing with an invasive species.
Love it.
And comments on Korean sites were like, they're sharing recipes. They're like,
really? What are they saying?
marinate them in soy. You know, there's gaejang, 꽃게탕, put them in soup, and drop one in ramen.
Oh, that's so
or
good.
just ship it to us. We'll take care of it.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll pay for the shipping. Well, thank you so much for going over all the hot issues, and we'll check in with you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
All right, everybody. This was Haley. And for our text topic, real quick, let's talk about taking breaks, resting on your days off. Do you feel rested if you stay at home, or do you feel like, oh, I need to get out? And be honest, how do you feel about this possible 6-day holiday coming up? 자, 나는 쉬는 날에 집돌이나 집순이다. 아니면 나는 무조건 나가서 놀아야 되는 타입인가? 또는 나는 엿새 meaning like 6 days in a row. 연휴가 반갑다? 아니다. Be honest. Let me know. And I'm going to turn it over to Annie for our updated traffic and weather.
Good morning again. It is currently 8:17 a.m. and here's your weather and traffic. So the roads have gotten quite busy. There's congestion on Daeyeongro from Seodaeshin intersection to Dongdaeshin intersection. Likewise on Jungangdaero from Sojongcheon intersection to Kumjang district office. And likewise on Gwangnam-ro from Dongbang 5-way intersection to KBS junction. And lastly, also quite busy on Jungangdaero from Naesung intersection to the old Dongbu terminal intersection. Again, do drive safe. Jumping over to the weather, the sun is shining strong behind a layer of clouds, with current temperatures averaging 26 degrees Celsius and afternoon highs forecast to reach 29 degrees Celsius. It has changed. We're now looking at a 60% chance of rain at around 2 p.m. However, again, the weather is changing by the hour due to this unpredictable effect of the various typhoons. So do keep an eye on it and maybe pack an umbrella before heading out today. That's all for now. Let's hand it back to Catherine.
All I know is
So as Haley was mentioning, here is Love, Paris in the Rain.
the mood we're in. Yeah, all I know is getting lost late at night under stars, finding love standing right where we are. Your lips, they pull me in the moment. You and I alone, and people may be watching. I don't mind, 'cause anywhere with you feels right. Anywhere with you feels like Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. We don't need a fancy town or bottles that we can't pronounce, 'cause anywhere, babe, it's like Paris in the rain. When I'm with you, when I'm with you, Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. I look at you now and I want this forever. I might not deserve it, but there's nothing better. Don't know how I ever did it all without you. My heart is about to jump out of my chest. Feelings they come and they go, that they do. Feelings they come and they go, not with you. Late nights and the street lights and the people look at me, girl, and the whole world could stop. Anywhere with you feels right. Anywhere with you feels like Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. We don't need a fancy town or bottles that we can't pronounce, 'cause Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. Walking down an empty street, puddles underneath our feet.
Nice song, right? It is now 8:21 on this Thursday morning. Right, quick before we get into our special interview, one last time. Tell me about how you spend your days off and how you feel about this potential 6-day holiday we might have. We'll get the decision next week, apparently. I have an interesting comment from Suzanne. She's speaking on the topic regarding, remember I said this one particular airline, they're going to be testing this adults-only section on the airplane. Suzanne says, good morning, Catherine. I raise 3 kids. They need to be taught how to behave on a plane or stay home. They are completely capable of behaving. I would not be willing to pay more to fly in a kid-free zone. They should make parents pay more. It is not the other passenger's problem. And I thought this was an interesting message because this is coming from a parent of 3 kids. I happen to also be a mom to 3 kids too. Personally speaking, I also didn't really take my kids out a lot, even to restaurants, until I thought they were of an appropriate age where they wouldn't, be bothering not just the other diners, but also, my husband and myself. We wanted to enjoy our time out. But I know it's a personal, preference or choice. I'm not wagging my finger, not trying to preach to any of you, but that's just, some people's opinions regarding this whole no kid zones, kid-free zones, or, having to pay extra or things like that. In terms of other responses to our text topic, Tommy, he had a comment about the whole blue crabs that Haley spoke about. Let's go to Italy to go get those crabs. Yes. Let's get on a plane. So anyhow, we're going to get to our special interview. So I'll be back in just a moment. All right. The reality of driving these days really has changed. And especially in San Francisco, I don't know if you've heard about this story. There has been this decision to grant 24-hour operations to driverless so-called robo-taxis in San Francisco. This was hailed as a significant leap towards the widespread acceptance of these autonomous or self-driving cars. However, recent weeks have proven to be kind of this turbulent period, maybe, revealing a city divided over the integration of these autonomous vehicles. Let's find out what exactly is unfolding on the streets of San Francisco. We have invited to the airwaves Professor Philip Coatman. He's an associate professor at Carnegie Mellon University, that's in Pennsylvania. And he's been working on self-driving car safety for over 25 years. So he's a perfect person to get our information from. Let's say hi to him. Hi, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yes. So, Professor, there have been reports that we've been getting of, driverless taxis causing, for example, things like traffic congestion and also being involved in accidents. Is this an accurate portrayal? Can you tell us about some of these incidents?
Well, let me start with the broader story, because when there's a crash in the headlines, everyone wants to focus on the crash. Let me just set a minute of context if I can.
Okay.
You mentioned that I've been doing self-driving car safety for 25 years. That's before most people even knew that was a thing. So more than 25 years ago, in 1995, some of my colleagues went all the way across the United States, 98% hands off the steering wheel. And they were there in case it tried to crash, right? And so one way to look at it is, for more than 25 years, everyone's been working on that last 2%. So they've made enough progress that they actually have robo-taxis in San Francisco running around the streets. There's nobody behind the wheel. There's nobody remote controlling them with a joystick remotely. And that's just really amazing. The catch is, they've made a lot of progress on that 2%, but now they still got the 0.2%, and no one knows how long that's going to take. So to get into where we are, it's important to say, this is amazing progress, But there's a difference between drives down the street pretty well and safe enough that it's going to be as good as a human driver. It's hundreds of millions of miles. That's the difference. So where we are now is we're seeing some crashes and injuries. We're seeing some stalled cars clogging the streets. We're seeing some incidents with first responders, and we're seeing some things that are, basically amount to stupid mistakes except made by, it's not human error, it's robot error, right? So there's a lot of good things happening. But if you want to really be safe and have a scalable, sustainable way to travel, you need to work on those loose ends and get them in line so that it's safe enough that we can really scale this up. That's where we are.
Thanks for giving us a broader kind of outlook perspective so we have a better understanding of what's going on. But Professor, I mean, aren't humans, just as guilty, if not more guilty of making mistakes while driving or, being the culprit of things that happen on the road, not just robo-taxis, right?
Well, they are, but the scale and the numbers matter. So I'm a safety guy and I'm an engineer.
Okay.
But I'll try not to use too many fancy numbers in this discussion. But the numbers actually matter. So it's easy to say, well, humans are terrible drivers, and so a computer has to be better. And it's more complicated than that. So what we're seeing is the robo-taxi guys for decades have been promising us these things have these cameras and they have these LiDARs, which is like a laser radar. And they have radars. They have all these amazing sensors all over the place. There's no way they're going to do something stupid like run into and hit a bus, right? Well, one of them hit a bus a few weeks ago. That's a problem, right? They said these things are computers. They'll never make mistakes. And the better way to express it is, it's absolutely true they won't drive drunk. That's absolutely true. And it's absolutely true they won't be distracted by looking at cat pictures on their cell phone while they're driving. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Right.
But they're going to make other mistakes. And I used to say they would make completely different mistakes. And it turns out I was wrong. They actually make some of the same stupid mistakes human drivers do, but for different reasons. Now, to make that concrete, excuse the pun, I know it's the morning there. It's evening for me, so I'm fully awake. All right,
Yes.
one of them actually drove into a bunch of wet concrete.
Oh, really?
They were doing paving. It drove in and got up to its axle in wet concrete. And if a human, and people say, well, humans do that. It's like, yes, that's exactly my point. Every once in a while, if you want to have some fun, go look for pictures on the internet of cars driving into wet pavement, right? And no one, you don't see people getting hurt, which is why I say you can have some fun with that. It happens, but it happens so infrequently. It's a big story when it does happen, right?
Yes,
And there are
yes.
millions, hundreds of millions of cars in the U.S. There's only a couple hundred of these robotaxis, but it happened to them. And you're going, well, that sounds like the kind of stupid human mistakes we were promised weren't going to happen, but it's happening. That one ran into a bus, one ran into concrete. There's video of one going into a construction zone that's really clearly marked, and there's a flagman, and the whole street is closed down. It's like, what the heck is this car thinking? And there's one where it went through some police tape, the yellow tape they put around disaster scenes, and some power lines for the light rail system had come down. And there's a photo of not one, but two of them driving down the street with the power lines fortunately de-energized. And fortunately, no one was in them because someone could have gotten electrocuted, right?
Yes.
There's these two robotaxis dragging the power lines and the police tape down the street. And I'm willing to think that most human drivers, you'd have to be a pretty bad human driver to not realize something's wrong when you're dragging power lines and police tape down the street, right?
True.
So they make what, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call stupid mistakes.
Interesting. Well, thanks for schooling us on this. Apart from these obvious accidents that you're telling us about, and so interesting, but what other safety concerns are there? And especially here in San Francisco, where they have the system up and running, what have we seen?
Well, the big one that the city is justifiably really unhappy about is the interference with emergency responders. And so when you think about safety, what happens is you say, well, if something goes wrong, the car is going to stop. And when it stops, I'd rather have it stop than hit something, for sure. But if it stops and it stays there for like half an hour, that becomes a problem all on its own. And so you're seeing some clogged streets, but the things that are really a problem are that they're interfering with emergency responders. They're blocking fire trucks. There's one that stalled in a firehouse driveway so the truck couldn't get out.
Oh, no.
There's one that stalled between a fire truck and a burning car, so the firefighters had to go around it to get at the burning car. All right. There's one that was trying to run over. A couple times they've tried to run over charged fire hoses. And so it's really messing with emergency responders. And the San Francisco Fire Department in particular is really upset. And people say, well, why didn't the fire department get in and move the car or something? It's like, they have better things to do, like put out the burning building or the police to respond to a shooter scene than to try and wrangle a car that's driving around where it isn't supposed to be and doesn't know what to do. So that's really a big one. And the one recently that was the most concerning is one of them failed to yield to a fire truck and collided with a fire truck.
Oh, no.
And the fire, to be clear, because people like making excuses because the technology is cool, and the technology is cool, the excuses don't apply. The fire truck had its lights on, had its siren on, and the car, the robotaxi had a green light, but everyone else on the street yields to these things. There's another video of another one of those cars. This is a cruise vehicle not yielding to the fire truck in another scene. So if you want to be on public roads, you have to learn how to yield to fire trucks. And this one ended up not only in a collision, but a passenger in the robotaxi got injured.
Oh, no.
So that's really concerning.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm very curious as to what the San Francisco public, how they perceive all of this. Is opinion quite divided?
Well, opinion started out divided. I think it's swinging against the companies as these things pile up.
Wow.
But there are a couple of facets. One is the government is really fit to be tied. And the reason is that there's a state law. California has a state law saying San Francisco can't do anything. The city is preempted from doing anything about this. And so they're really upset with the state. The local population, this is the home of tech, right?
Yes.
You know, Silicon Valley is just down the road.
Right.
All right. So there's a lot of tech stuff in San Francisco proper. So there's lots of people who are advocating it. Some of the disabled community is really mobilized to advocate for it. But there's other in the disabled community who aren't as happy. There's some unions who are happy, some unhappy. So there's a lot of divided opinion. But the thing that really shows there's a lot of unhappiness is the coning.
Can you explain that?
Sure. So, and people are like, what the heck is he going on about?
What is coning? Yeah.
I'm drawing it out here.
Okay.
Again, it's morning for you guys, it's evening for me, so I'm having some fun. All right, so people have figured out that if you take an orange traffic cone, these things are like half a meter tall that you put in construction sites, the orange things, right? And you put one on the hood of the car, the car has a nervous breakdown and it stops and it doesn't know what to do. And you're not actually damaging the car, really. If somebody pulls the cone off, it's good to go. But it doesn't know what to do about the cone, so it freezes the car in place. And then the company has to send someone from the central office to remove the cone, a person. Because it's not like there's a robot arm. There's no robot arm in these cars to remove the cone. They didn't think of that one, right? And somebody from the central office has to come and remove the cone so it can get back in service. And they are very clearly, they're talking in the media. They're saying, we're doing this as a protest because these cars are being so disruptive to the city. They're causing so many problems. We want to show that the citizens aren't happy with that. So that's what's been going on. So that's the most visible sign of people unhappy, for sure.
Right. We actually have a comment / question from one of our listeners who say, Tommy Neem saying, is it that the robot taxis, they have ODLF errors in programming and sensors? Is it like a programming software issue, or does it go beyond that?
Well, everything with these is pretty much a software issue, but that doesn't really help us much, right? He may have been saying OEDR. That's a buzzword. We don't need to go there. All right. So the idea is the way you teach these things to drive is you show them a bunch of examples. So there's this technology called machine learning. People call it artificial intelligence. That word actually doesn't mean anything at all. Machine learning is a much more specific thing that some people call AI now. And machine learning, the way it used to be is if you want to teach a computer what a person was, you'd say, well, there's this round headish thing on top, maybe with some hair, and then there's a body, and there's a couple arms and legs most of the time, right? Those kind of things. And with these machine learning, you don't do that. You just showed a bunch of pictures. Here's a person, here's a person, here's a person, picture, picture, picture. Those are people, and it statistically says, all right, I know what a person is, and so when you show it something on the street, it actually has no idea what a person is. It just says, that thing on the street looks like all the stuff I was told is a person, so I'm going with person.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
now you put a traffic cone on the car, and it gets a traffic cone, and if it knows what a traffic cone is, which it should because of construction zones, right?
Yes.
But it also, it's like, I've never seen a traffic cone on my hood. I'm not really sure what to do about that. And if you don't teach it what to do, now I'm simplifying and the technical details may be a little different, but in general, if you show it something it's never been taught how to deal with, on a bad day, it does something crazy and random, which is how you see some of these failures, right? But on a good day, it says, I have no clue what to do. And it shuts down because that's better than driving around without knowing what you're doing. So shutting down is good because it's safer than not shutting down if you're clueless, right? But until the companies teach it what to do about a traffic cone, they're going to stay there. And without a human driver, it's not clear what you do about a traffic cone. Do you drive around and it flies off and hits somebody? It's not really clear. I would personally prefer, I would think if there's a traffic cone, you could at least teach it to get out of the road and pull off into our parking spot or pull into the side of the road.
Sure.
But at least you're not blocking traffic while somebody comes out to get the cone. And these cars are sometimes they'll pull to the side, but there have been so many incidents of them not doing that, that we got all these reports of traffic disruption.
I see. Well, for our final question for you today, assuming that more and more of the public in San Francisco is against all of this, but you mentioned earlier that there is a state law. And so are their hands tied, or what can people do to address or even challenge the system in the first place?
Well, the city is going to challenge it. You can see the city lawyers challenging the ruling, allowing expanded deployment. To their credit, the State Department of Motor Vehicles, who controls some aspects of it, have told crews to cut the robotaxi fleet in half. But that was not because of the disruptions. That was because of hitting a fire truck and some of the other. They had two injury crashes that night, but hitting the fire truck was the big one.
I see.
So they've been cut back. The other companies have been told keep going. And the city is just watching this happen. Their lawyers are appealing some of the decisions, but they don't have a lot of power. So it's very, very frustrating for the folks in San Francisco. That's for sure.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on this as, there have been reports of our capital, Seoul, maybe testing something similar out as well. So thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing your wealth of knowledge and expertise on this matter. We do appreciate it, Professor.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And once again, this was Professor Philip Coatman from Carnegie Mellon, and we talked about this. And of course, there are many upsides, but he pointed out the realities of what's happening out there on the streets in San Francisco. So big thanks to him. And actually, I'll be back in just a moment, so stay tuned.
You're now listening to the world's most reliable morning show, Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Text in to BeFM #9050 for 101. You can also reach us for free through our YouTube live stream or on Kakao Talk. Begin your morning with Catherine, and don't forget to reboot your day after lunch. Stay tuned for Steve Hatherley Reboot every day from 2 to 4 p.m.
is now time for City Insights. That means Stephanie's here. Good morning.
Good morning. You're so far away.
I know. On camera, we look like we're
next to each other.
Yeah,
yes,
but
yes.
in reality, so far away. All right, so let's get down into our City Insights. What do you have for us today?
All right, so for our first insight, we're going to talk about a job titled 유품 관리사. In English, it's keepsake manager.
Oh, so are we talking about like keepsake, referring to articles or things left behind by people who have passed away?
Right.
Yes. So keepsake managers, I'm assuming they would be people who help maybe organize what the deceased may have left behind as mementos or separating like kind of like what to keep and what not to keep. And I think there was like a movie in regards to this that was or was it like a mini-series or
like
something?
A documentary from Japan, Move to Heaven, I believe.
Right.
So yes, keepsake manager is someone who helps a person that has passed on with their final move. They'll go through a person's place of employment as well, pick up what they've left behind. They'll guide you through the inheritance process or connect you with professionals like tax lawyers and attorneys and provide consultation on what you can sell or what the cost of disposal is. Now, as they organize things, they'll also find notes and tie together a person's history, all their story through these records. And through this process, they help provide comfort to the bereaved and also help everyone find their own meaningful keepsakes as well.
Yes. Even if you're moving by yourself, I mean, it is not easy to sort through and kind of organize, like, to keep, to throw away. It's very
hard.
difficult. And I imagine it's not easy to sort through a deceased person's belongings to kind of determine what to keep and what not to keep.
Exactly. Now, for that, I met with CEO of our country's first keepsake management company called Keepers Korea, Mr. Kim Seok-jung. And he's also the author of the book titled 당신의 마지막 이사를 도와드립니다, meaning we help with your last move here on earth, right? So he shared that they first determined the intentions of the deceased. So what were they trying to do, accomplish? And he said you can tell by the way things are laid out or piled up in their homes or spaces. They would go through the items one by one. They put themselves in the shoes of the deceased as well as in the shoes of the bereaved family. And to preserve the deceased's dignity, they would get rid of things that can negatively affect the bereaved family. They would also consider space, legal issues, as well as see if there's any sentimental meaning and whether things that they can find could become maybe an important record for even the nation as well.
Indeed. Well, I'm curious as to who you interviewed and tell us more about this.
Right. So when I was interviewing the CEO, Mr. Kim Seok-jung, he shared that there is a special story behind the bag he takes with him when he goes to his place of work. So let's take a listen as he shares that story.
27살 대학생이 고시원에서 스스로 목숨을 끊었는데요. 현장을 가보니 운동할 때 먹던 그 단백질 파우더 2통이 들어있었습니다. 그중에 한 통은 뜯지도 않았어요. 해외여행 가려고 비행기 예약도 해놓고 여행용 캐리어도 준비해놓았습니다. 이 젊은 친구가 왜 이렇게 힘들어했을까? 또 이걸 왜 다 남겨놓고 사망을 했을까? 비슷한 또래 딸아이를 키우는 입장에서 마음이 너무 아파서 펑펑 울었습니다. 겉으로 봐서는 딱히 목숨을 끊을 이유가 없는 것 같았는데 가만히 생각해보니 요즘 청년들이 느끼는 압박감이 너무 심하지 않았을까라는 생각을 했습니다. 아마 이 친구들은 조금만 잘못해도 나락으로 떨어진다고 생각을 해서 아예 삶을 놓아버리는 것 같습니다. 점차 이런 일이 많아진다는 게 두렵기도 했고요. 유품 정리가 끝나고 가족들에게 유품을 전달하면서 캐리어를 같이 전달을 했는데 필요 없다고 처분하라고 하더군요. 그래서 아직 바퀴도 닳지 않은 그 캐리어를 차마 버릴 수가 없어서 제가 가지고 다니면서 유품을 정리할 때 필요한 도구를 넣어 다니고요. 다른 분들의 유품을 전달할 때 사용하고 있습니다.
All right, so he said that a 27-year-old college student had taken his own life at a 고시원, which is a small room where students studying or for big exams would live and study. Now, when Mr. Kim Seok-jung went to the scene, he found 2 bottles of protein powder, big ones, that the student took when he would work out, one of which he hadn't even opened. And the deceased had booked a flight to go abroad, had prepared a suitcase. And this made Mr. Kim Seok-jung ask ask himself, what was so hard for this young person that he left all these things behind? He had a daughter around the same age, so this made him cry. From the outside, there seems to be no reason and any reason for a student to end his life, but he thought that the pressure that young people must feel these days is too much, that maybe they think the slightest mistake will mean failure. And this may be the reason they let go of life altogether, and he was afraid that this is becoming more and more common. Now, when he finished organizing the remains and delivered to them the bereaved family, they told him to get rid of the suitcase because they didn't need it, but he couldn't bring himself to throw it away, so he's been carrying it around, keeping all the tools that he needs to organize and using it to deliver other people's keepsakes as well.
Wow, the fact that he chose to keep that suitcase.
Right.
Tells you about, I guess, the mindset and like his heart behind the whole process.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's so much that he learned through all these cases and clients going through the stuff. So I asked him to share with us some of the things that he had learned and realized through his work. So let's take a listen.
많은 유족들을 만나면서 가장 많이 들었던 말이 그게 마지막일 줄 몰랐다라고 하는 후회였습니다. 근데 안타깝게도 죽음으로 인한 사별은 후회도 다시는 기회가 없다는 것입니다. 사람들이 100년을 살듯이 굴지만은 누구나 그렇지는 않더라고요. 오늘을 잘 살고 또 내일을 잘 살아야 100년을 살 수 있는데 나중에 잘하면 되지라고 생각으로 미루지 말고 지금 당장 실천할 수 있는 것들을 생각해야 되는데 그 가운데 특히 사랑하는 사람들에게 표현하며 사는 이러한 부분들이 중요하다고 생각을 했습니다. 죽음은 언제 찾아올지 모릅니다. 하지만 반드시 찾아오기 때문에 건강할 때 자신의 죽음에 대해서 한번 생각해 보는 것들도 중요합니다. 막연히 두려움을 가지는 것이 아니라 구체적으로 공부하면 잘 보이는데요. 이런 공부를 하면 사랑하는 사람들과 함께 보내는 시간이 얼마나 소중한지 그리고 또 좋은 기억을 많이 남길 수 있을 것이라고 생각합니다.
Right. So Mr. Kim Seok-jung said that he has met a lot of bereaved people, and most common thing he hears is regret, saying, I didn't realize it would be the last time. But the thing about death is that even with regret, you don't get a second chance, right? So people act like, he said, they're going to live for 100 years, but most don't. And you can't live for 100 years if you don't live well today and tomorrow. You have to think about what you can do right now, not put it off. And one of the things that he's come to realize is that how important it is to show family, friends that you love them right now. And we don't know when death will come, but when it comes, it's important to start thinking about before, right? While you're still healthy. Instead of being afraid of it, it's better to keep in mind and consider it so that you can cherish the time that you spend with your loved ones and leave them with good memories.
Wow, such a meaningful insight that you've brought for our first one today. So thank you for that. But we do have to move on. Let's go to our second insight.
All right. So for the second insight, we're going to be talking about the overall green space policy of Busan, as Busan City recently established a Park City promotion team and is drawing up a blueprint for the 2040 Busan City Green Space Plan.
Ooh, so does that mean we can look forward to kind of a greener Busan?
Yes. So the Park City promotion team aims to create a park-like city in which mountains and parks are not separated from the spaces where citizens live. And the 2040 Busan Park Greenery Master Plan was established by the team. So the plan comprehensively sets a direction of management, use of parks and green spaces, promotes the designation of national parks to preserve and manage important natural environments, and promotes a large-scale carbon-neutral green smart city creation project here in Busan. And their work includes Samnak Ecological Park.
Recently Samnak Ecological Park was designated as Busan's first local garden. Isn't that correct?
Yes. So by registering as the largest local garden in Korea, that provides a space where all of us citizens can create and manage and maintain the garden together. So they can operate various experience programs, experience garden using the wildflower zone in Kamjeon.
Sure.
And programs maintaining a garden that serves as a feeding ground for migratory birds in winter, and a space where you can see various flowers of various seasons, and a work garden where citizens can participate in and manage together as well.
Yes. So what are we going to hear in this clip, though?
Right. So we're going to be hearing about the future plan for the park to be designated as a national garden. So I spoke with Mr. Lee Dong-hoop, Director of Park City Promotion Division of Busan City. So let's take a listen.
국가정원의 최소 면적은 30만 제곱미터 이상이고 주제별 정원이 5종류 이상 조성되어야 하며 총 면적 대비 녹지 면적이 40% 이상, 또한 전담 조직 및 전문 관리 인력이 확보되어야 하며 운영 관리 조례 등도 필요합니다. 무엇보다도 지역 주민들과 함께 정원을 만들고 다듬어야 하는 과제가 있습니다. 우리 시는 타 시도의 국가정원과 가장 차별을 위해서 철새와 사람이 함께하는 공간으로 겨울철에는 철새를 위하여 대형 습지 먹이원 제공을 위하여 국내 최대 면적의 다양한 연꽃떡지 등을 계획하고 있습니다.
네.
가능한 생태 복원지를 정원으로 재탄생시킨다고 보시면 되겠습니다.
So Mr. Lee Dong-hoop said that the minimum area of a national garden must be at least 300,000 square meters, with at least 5 types of thematic gardens and a green area of at least 40% of the total area. A dedicated organization and professional management personnel must be secured, and operation and management regulations are required. And most importantly, there is a task of creating and refining the garden along with local residents. So in order to differentiate from other national gardens in other cities, Busan is planning the largest lotus complex in Korea to provide a large wetland food source for migratory birds in winter. And you can think of it as a natural ecological restoration site that is reborn as a garden.
Well, I love this whole idea of, I've been to, many people have been to, the Samlag Eco Park, and to kind of view it as kind of like our garden.
Right.
Yeah, I love
and
the
you
idea.
can participate and just maintaining it, refining it. How exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and due to global warming and climate change, the importance of green spaces in cities is increasing. And I think expansion of parks is not an option, but really a necessity if Busan is to grow as a global city.
Right, and we always call, metropolitan cities like Busan kind of like the concrete jungle. But I feel like we're so lucky because Busan, we have enough space.
Right.
We're not like Seoul, we're kind of crowded. We have enough space where we can have the beautiful city, skyline, and then we have areas like this park, our garden now.
Right. And
So we
it's
can
a
enjoy.
big garden. So definitely a blessing to have so much nature here in the city.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for bringing City Insights to our listeners, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Stephanie.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That was City Insights. And to get to a few more of your responses, possibly that 6-day holiday is coming. I can't tell you definitively, but I guess we're going to get an answer sometime next week. I guess they're going to vote on it next Tuesday. Hopefully, they'll announce it nice and early for those of you who are looking to maybe travel abroad, maybe change those tickets, whatever you were able to get. Personally, my daughter yesterday was trying to get train tickets to come from Seoul to Busan during the Chuseok break, and she's like, "Mom, I am taking number 60,000 something." I was like, I guess we got to find a different way to get you home. Anyhow, regardless of how long our Chuseok holiday into National Foundation Day may be, as some of you are saying, some of you not looking forward to yuga, meaning taking care of the kids for 6 days. Yeah, that's a long time. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining us today, and especially while, I was kind of doing everything with the support of all the writers, and I want to say thank you to Haley, to Esther, and Annie, and to our engineer, Jason, aka Yechan-shi, for helping me so much during the past 4 days. I do appreciate it. And so I'm going to dedicate this song, Lucky, to everybody out there, the listeners, and to our supporting staff. Lucky by Jason Mraz, featuring Colby Calais. So here it is. Enjoy and have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Do you hear me? I'm talking to you across the water, across the deep blue ocean, under the open sky. Oh my, baby, I'm trying. Boy, I hear you in my dreams. I feel you whisper across the sea. I keep you with me in my heart. You make it easier when life gets hard. Lucky I'm in love with my best friend. Lucky to have been where I have been. Lucky to be coming home again. forever. I wish we had one more kiss. I'll wait for you. I promise you I will. Lucky I'm in love with my best friend. Lucky to have been where I have been. Lucky to be coming home again. Lucky we're in love in every way. Lucky to have stayed where we have stayed. Lucky to be coming home someday. And so I'm sailing through the sea to an island where we'll meet. You'll hear the music, feel the air. I'll put a flower in your hair. Golden breezes through the trees move so pretty. You're all I see as the world keeps spinning round. You hold me right here, right now. Lucky I'm in love with my best friend. Lucky to have been where I have been. Lucky to be coming home again.
다운이. 옷이 땀에 젖으면
왔다. 여기.
땀 냄새를 의식하게 되죠. 뉴 다운이 시트러스 앤 버베나. 시트러스로 땀 냄새를 날리고 샤워한 듯한 상쾌함만. 땀에 젖어도 향기만 오래. 다운이.
부산을 한 장의 사진에 담는다면